Senator Ted Cruz with us now. He's just coming off the Senate floor. I know this is a tough call, and you may not have been expecting that this was going to emerge as the tough time that we have now to make this call. But what do you think America should do as it pertains to Iran, given what's going on right now?
To be honest, Clay, I don't think it's a tough call at all. I think we should stand unshakably with the state of Israel. I think Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon is the most acute national security threat facing the United States today. And I think Israel acting decisively to take out Iran's capability to develop a nuclear weapon is overwhelmingly beneficial to America. It makes us safer because I think if the Ayatollah were to acquire a nuclear weapon, the risks are unacceptably high that the Ayatollah would use that weapon and potentially kill millions of Americans or millions of Israelis, and that's not a risk that we should allow.
I agree with that. In particular, we're diving into the decision that Trump may have to make. If you were president right now, or if the president called and asked for your advice, if we need, Israel does, if they need our bunker-busting bombs in order to get to some of these nuclear facilities, should we give that assistance to Israel, if asked in your mind? Second part of this, should the Ayatollahs be removed in some way, either allowing Israel to do it or potentially America being involved? How would you handle those two questions?
So let's break them down one at a time. So right now, Israel is conducting the military strikes. The American military is not conducting them. We are assisting with intelligence. We're helping Israel with missile defense in Israel because Iran is firing ballistic missiles and trying to kill as many civilians as possible in Israel. And I would note there's a huge difference between Israel's attacks, which are targeted military attacks, taking out the senior leadership of their military who are charged with conducting the war, and also taking out their nuclear facilities. In contrast, Iran is trying to kill civilians, as many as possible. I do not believe, under any circumstances, we should see American boots on the ground. I don't think our military is needed to be on the ground here. I think Israel is capable of doing this. The one exception is the question you asked of bunker busters, and in particular, most of the nuclear facilities Israel is taking out quite effectively right now. The one major exception is a facility that's called Fordow, and Fordow is built into the base of a mountain. And it was deliberately built to make it very difficult to bomb. And Israel lacks the technical capacity. They don't have big enough bunker busters to bomb and hit Fordow, whereas America does. And so that's the one aspect. I think there is a serious argument. I've long argued that America should be willing to provide those bunker busters because Fordow was designed to help Iran. That's where they're conducting their most sensitive nuclear research. And it was designed to help them get a nuclear weapon, which they intend, I believe, to be able to use. And the Ayatollah chants death to America and death to Israel, and I believe him. And so I think it is very worthwhile to do what is necessary to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon that could help them make death to America and death to Israel much more of a reality and be used to commit murder on a massive scale. Now, on the second question about regime change, in my view, the world would be much better if the Ayatollahs were no longer in charge of Iran. I think the Ayatollah is a theocratic zealot. He refers to Israel as the little Satan. He refers to America as the great Satan. And unquestionably, Iran would be better, Israel would be better, America would be better if the Ayatollah were not in charge. I don't think that means we should invade Iran and try to topple the Ayatollah, but I think we should use every tool we have, in particular economic sanctions and pressure. And indeed, this military campaign directed at stopping the nuclear program, I think is weakening the regime as well. And so we should certainly cheer if the Ayatollah, if the regime falls. But whether it does or not, the objective of Israel's attack here is not regime change, but it is to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons.
If Netanyahu asked for the ability to kill the Ayatollah, should Trump, in your mind, give that nod, even if we're not directly involved?
Look, that's a difficult question. I talked about it on the latest episode of my podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz, and we talked about it at some length. There has been reporting, I don't know if this is accurate, I don't know independently, but I've read the newspaper stories that say that Netanyahu wanted to target the Ayatollah, and the Trump White House asked them not to. I don't have a reason to doubt or dispute that reporting. And listen, I think it's a close call. Generally in warfare, nations refrain from targeting heads of state. It's also complicated by the Ayatollah being simultaneously a religious figure, and taking out a religious figure, there are real risks to that. There are risks of making him a martyr and inflaming things further. So I think it is a reasonable decision to say, rather than targeting the Ayatollah himself, who's an old man, that what they're doing, and Israel is doing it with amazing precision, is they're taking out the senior military leadership. They're taking out the head of the IRGC and the chief of staff, and in fact, then the next chief of staff, they keep taking out the senior leadership of the military that is, number one, in charge of waging the terror war. Iran provides 90% of the funding to Hamas and 90% of the funding to Hezbollah, and they're taking out the senior leadership that are directing the missile strikes on Israel, that are directing the nuclear program. They're also taking out the nuclear scientists. I think it makes sense for the attacks to be directed at removing their ability to wage war against Israel and to wage war against America. I will tell you also, it is a dangerous time. It's a dangerous time for the people of Israel. I spoke with a friend of mine on Sunday whose mom is in Jerusalem, and he said his mom, nobody's able to sleep because they wake up at 2 and 3 in the morning every night with air raid sirens going on, and they have to rush to the bomb shelter. So, it is intense when a civilian population is facing constant missile strikes, and there have been significant fatalities, and there may be substantially more. So the people of Israel are in harm's way. But Clay, also our servicemen and women. We have a large number of servicemen and women that are in the Middle East, and I think it is exceptionally important. I spoke with President Trump on Sunday, and I called him just to say that I thought he was doing exceptionally well, and standing with Israel, and his leadership was really important. And I said in particular, thank you for making unequivocally clear to Iran that if they attack and kill U.S. servicemen and women, that they will face very significant retaliation from the United States. I think that is protecting the lives of our servicemen and women, and that is what a strong commander-in-chief does. That's what Trump is doing.
Senator Ted Cruz, we appreciate the time, know how busy you are. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, my friend. God bless.